Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining the session today. My name is Helen Wu. I am the Senior Director overseeing Thunderbird Career Management Center. And here with me, I have our wonderful career coach, Jacqueline Boyes. She will be here. She will be the person kind of moderating our chat room today. Today's session is really near and dear to my heart. I know so many of you are very interested in having global careers, maybe find jobs outside of your home country. Today we have three amazing panelists. I just admire them so much because they're all working right now, Singapore, Vietnam, having amazing global careers. So I can't wait to share their stories with you. As our session will be recorded today, I would like to remind you to mute yourself during the session. And today we want to have 45-minute session, but at the end we'll have 15 minutes Q&A. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat box. Jacqueline will monitor the chat room, but at the end, if you want to talk to the panelists, feel free to raise your hand using the Zoom feature. So with that, I would like to start by introducing our first speaker, Megan, if I remember correctly. Megan, so if you don't mind, maybe give us 30-second story regarding who you are and what you do right now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. First off, thanks for having me, guys. It's really exciting, to connect and talk to other Thunderbirds who are interested in a global career like I was. So I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, now living in Singapore. So I continued my education at Thunderbird in Arizona State, where I received a Bachelor of Global Management, graduating in the class of fall of 2018. During my time in the school, I interned in London and Singapore as well, and served as a Thunderbird undergraduate campus ambassador, which was an amazing experience. And from there, I ended up moving to Singapore, where I now work within the music industry for a company called BandLab Technologies. So I work across all 11 brands within our group, and work on business development, group strategy, and brand strategy. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Megan. Brady, you're next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brady Rice. I specifically chose to work in Asia because my last name's Rice. And I've loved the opportunity to use my Chinese in my career. Prior to Thunderbird, I had spent some time abroad, and my undergraduate degree was in Chinese, and I was really struggling to find a good fit with just Chinese. So Thunderbird gave me that business acumen I needed to find some good opportunities. And ironically, even though I speak Chinese and spent a big chunk of my career in China and Taiwan, I now use my Chinese on a daily basis here in Vietnam, where we work with a bunch of different manufacturers, including our own factory, making memory foam mattresses and furniture. So hello from Vietnam, ni hao, and xin chào.
Thank you, Brady. Shen, you're next. Thank you.
Xin chào, and ni hao, and ohayo gozaimasu. My name is Shinji. I graduated from the Thunderbird 2013. I think like the same with Helen. Then Helen is my classmate. So after the graduation from the Thunderbird, actually the reason why I chose the Thunderbird is the exchange program. The same with Brady. I also joined some like a Wintrim, Samalium, and also exchange program to China. I visited China, Beijing Dashui, Fudan Dashui, with the exchange program of Thunderbird. It was a really good experience. I appreciate it. Then, so after graduating from the Thunderbird, I joined Amazon. Then the 3 years experience in Amazon, I also joined Asia Africa Investment Consulting. And I used to be the manager of the consulting division of the AAIC, which support the Asian companies, basically Asian companies, for their new market entry. Then that was like a 5 years experience. Then now I founded my own company in Singapore. So maybe later I will share my experience of my company too later on. Yeah, but that's about me. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me. It's really my big pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Brady, I'll start with you first because your experience is a little bit different. So before Thunderbird, you already work in Asia, you already had some sort of experience, but how did you find your first job in China and how did you transition to Vietnam right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a fun story. So the opportunity to work abroad didn't come right away for me. It's what I wanted, and I wanted it to come right away, but it didn't come right away. Initially, after Thunderbird, I had already had a lot of the soft skills, Chinese speaking, international volunteer experience, things like that people thought was nice, but it wasn't meaty enough for them to like bring me into international role. And so I worked in Arizona for a couple years, building up other hard skill sets. And then, interestingly enough, the opportunity to work in China came through a Thunderbird alum that I had called while I was going to school at Thunderbird. And I had forgotten that I called him. I found him in the alumni network, had a great conversation with him, and then forgot about it. And then another friend who worked in that company reached out to me and said, hey, they're looking for a role in Southern China, someone to run their furniture business development department. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's talk. Okay, they said, well, let me set up a call with our owner and CEO. And I looked him up and I was like, hey, Chris Doctor, like that sounds kind of funny, interesting. I feel like I saw that name before somewhere. And then, sure enough, when he was on the call with me, he's like, you're that kid that called me from Thunderbird. And I was like, I am that kid that called you from Thunderbird. And so as a fellow Thunderbird alum, he had a good impression of me because he remembered that I had just called him sincerely to ask about his career. So he got to talk about himself and his international career for like 30 minutes or something. And anytime you ask a Thunderbird about their career, they're going to have stories. And so he remembered that exchange. He had a good impression of me and hired me from the States, helped me relocate to Southern China. And then I've been with that company for the better part of the last 5 years now.
But then how did you then transition to Vietnam?
Yeah, also fun stories. So that is more as a result of just market shifts in production that have happened. Obviously, I speak Chinese, and so I anticipated spending most of my time in China, loved living there, still love living there. But then what happened is a lot of manufacturing started shifting from China to Southeast Asia, places like Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And with that shift, where there was most of our product goes to the US, and with the trade war and also some anti-dumping legislation, we ended up having to shift our production from China to Vietnam. And so we have a Chinese partner in Vietnam, and where we make memory foam mattresses at our own plant. And so I use Chinese every day. My Vietnamese isn't very good, but we just shifted with the market changes. And so yeah, and what's interesting is a lot of the factory owners here are Taiwanese or Chinese, and so the business development and product development that I do is in Chinese every day, even though I'm in Vietnam. So it's really fun.
That's so funny. So informational interview really works, right? So
yeah, it helped. It helped a lot. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Megan, I'm curious to know, because I remember the way you found your internship is pretty interesting as well. How could someone who's based out in the US and then managed to find an internship in Singapore? So how did that happen?
Yeah, so I originally had interned for the first time in London. And during that time, I was doing something actually completely different. I was doing marketing and communications for a nonprofit, which worked to help children. And I realized that, after reflecting, I'm like, graduation's coming up. I got to figure out, something that I really am passionate about and something that, I can see myself doing forever. And I had always been, during that time I was in London, a very influential album came out that really has impacted me for my life. And I realized, music is something that I want to do and that I'm so passionate about. I can't imagine not having a career in anything else but music. So I was like dead set on that. And I was like, I'm going to look around, I'm going to find something that suits my passion, because that's how I'm going to be happy. And that's how I'm going to be able to add value to a company. So I was lucky enough to come across BandLab Technologies. And I interviewed for an internship at a trade show, actually. It's called NAMM. It's the largest music manufacturer trade show in America. And something that I will always remember my CEO asking me was during that interview was, what are you passionate about? And how can we, create a role for you to do something that you're passionate about? And at that point, I knew, okay, this is the company for me. And these are the people that have that same mentality that I do. So my internship, I spent moved to Singapore for a few months. I developed vinyl sections throughout Southeast Asia for music retail stores. One of the brands within our group is called Sweely. So I had the opportunity to start that from the ground up. And during my interview, I had told him, I'm passionate about vinyl and collecting albums. So that's how that came to fruition. During my internship period, my supervising manager, I had told her, anything that you need help with, like, let me know. Let me take a stab at, even if I'm not the one who actually will execute on the project or the task, like, I would love to learn. And through doing that and proving that, I was really committed and I wanted to learn, I was a go-getter. I asked for a full-time position. And then I went back, finished my degree, and was able to, graduate and then move to Singapore. So I feel very, very lucky and fortunate. And Thunderbird taught me a lot of those skills, and to be, let your passion drive you. And so I have the Thunderbird School to thank for how that all came to play.
Thank you. I don't know, I feel so nervous talking about passion. So I'm so jealous that you know what your passion is and you know where to focus on, because so many students are still trying to figure out what interests me.
Yeah.
So for
that's
you
how, that's how I was for probably three years, up to my junior year of college. I had so many different passions. My family is in the music industry, but also the car industry and also into a bunch of other different things. They have a lot of different hobbies. And so I was like, I love it all. Like, how can I do something that, that encompasses everything? And it took a long time. And that's why I, credit that experience in London. And I hope to talk about, get to a little bit more later, is test everything that you can, because you don't know, you can't knock it until you try it. And it takes a lot of knocking. So.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. Shen, I'm curious to know about, you got to work with Amazon, multinational corporation, hottest company in the world. And then you got to do business with Africa, but live in Singapore. But now you're starting your own business and in a foreign country. So how does it work? How do you start a company in Singapore even?
Yeah, so I think it would be better to share a bit about my background story before setting up my own company in Singapore. So firstly, I got my entrepreneurship mindset in Thunderbird. Then when graduating at Thunderbird, but what I thought actually was it was the best timing, the graduation from the MBA school, to increase my market value. So I decided to work for Amazon, since it had a leadership program for the MBA grad students, and it's actually the compensation package was like a top class. So it's just practically, rather than my motivation and the passion and ambition, actually I selected the big multinational corporation to work for as a first career after the MBA, to just increase my market value. Also, people just often see what you did and which company you worked for before. to check your credibility, even for the entrepreneurs too. So I think it's a pretty important thing to think about it. That honestly speaking, so actually I was not so motivated to work for Amazon before enrolling to the Amazon, but actually Amazon was an amazing company eventually. So it was a great like experience for me. Then the secondary, but Amazon just awaked me that I'm really just a small parts of the Amazon, and myself like doesn't have a independent like ability, because Amazon platform and technology itself is really amazing, and so what employee can impact on the business is just limited. That's what I felt. Even though environment is fantastic, the colleague awesome, but just I thought like my contribution is limited. So just I wanted to acquire the independent skill. It was a consultancy, especially my interest was a new market entry. So especially the go-to-market strategy, then which requires like local legal, knowledge and accounting knowledge, and also local network. Then, so I joined the Asia Africa Investment Consulting. So it gave me a really good experience in Africa region, the Asia region. My position was a manager of a consulting division in a Singapore office. So I supported a Japanese company, Taiwanese company, Chinese company to go to the African market or Southeast Asian market. So then at the time, so I worked with a lot of like local partners in Nigeria, Kenya, a lot of East European countries, also Southeast Asian countries. So I just expanded my network. Then now just they are my asset actually for my business. So with those like local partners, now just I'm offering those consultancy and research services to my clients. Then Singapore is one of the best place to set up the new business and cover the wider region from the Asia to India and even farther Middle East and also Oceania countries. So yeah, I would say then I'm not the English native speaker, but Singapore, even though like national language is English, but still a lot of people like me, a lot of diversification. 30% of citizens here, not citizens, but residents here are the foreigners, immigrants. So it's pretty diversified and a well environment for foreigners. So yeah, I believe this is one of the best country to set up the new business. Did I answer to your question?
Yeah, but yeah, no, I love it. It's interesting. I don't want to make up numbers, but it's so interesting to see there are so many Thunderbird alumni all started their own companies, because I think deep down Thunderbird, I don't know, Thunderbird network or T-Birds in general, the entrepreneurship, just kind of want to have more impact instead of just kind of one tiny piece in the MNCs. Definitely very interesting. But are there specific challenges that you face when you were starting your own business in Singapore? Because it's like, for me, if I just want to start a business in Singapore, I don't even know how to start. So are there like key things that you can share with us that you did in order to start something in Singapore?
Challenge. The Singapore just requires, the Singapore like a cost is pretty expensive, the employee, the people here, and also the rent, for example. Everything is so expensive. So you need a bit of capital. So you need to earn the money first for the first capital. Maybe that's the first challenge.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Thank you. Maybe we'll see you on Shark Tank one day.
All right.
Anyway, okay, thank you. Brady, I'm curious to understand a little bit more about time management at Thunderbird. Right now, especially with a pandemic and everything's crazy, but I'm just thinking about you're at Thunderbird, you have family, kids, and student clubs, everything, job search. How did you manage your time?
Yeah, great question. It's difficult. One thing that kind of like guides, the way I used my time when I was there was I was looking forward to the Thunderbird experience, but like I was coming to Thunderbird for one reason and one reason only, and that was to leave Thunderbird with a good job. And I wanted it to be my dream job, of course, and I had like a vision and a thought for it. But like that it like if there's ever a question about where I should spend my time, that I just ask myself, is this going to help me get closer to the job that I want? And that filtered out a lot of things, you know, like, so, but it also makes things tricky, because they're like, one of my favorite things to do there was, I loved the, like, back when people could like get together and stuff. Remember that era? Like, we would play basketball, and interestingly enough, one of the guys that I never had class with, but was from Taiwan, like, that I only knew through basketball and just getting to know that way, a job opportunity came just through that contact. And I had zero knowledge, other than he's like, oh, that's that guy at Thunderbird who spoke Chinese with me and played basketball. Like, that's what he knew about me. He was like, hey, we're looking for someone. And so you never know exactly when that is. And so sometimes the answer might be, you know, I'm gonna spend some time networking. I'm gonna go play basketball with this group. I'm gonna go jump on some sort of, you know, network, you know, mingle opportunity, because it is fascinating where those opportunities end up popping up. And so it's tricky, it's really hard. And my heart goes out to everyone who's doing school during this time, but it's such a unique time. But I think having that motivation of just like, this is why I'm here, like, and putting everything through that filter made things easier, but it wasn't easy. So hopefully that principle helps a little bit, but obviously there's more to it than that. But that was the most important thing for me.
I was talking to an alum today, and she found her job by talking to someone at a dog park. And I was like, what? So, you know, you just never know what might happen. But I love what you said. Always think about kind of the end prize almost, and then use that to filter activities. So I love it.
Right.
Thank you. Megan, looking back, when thinking about you were a student at Thunderbird, any regret, or would you have done anything differently?
I think, you know, to kind of the point that I was alluding to earlier, is that I think I spent, you know, in the first few years of my undergraduate degree, a lot of time thinking and a lot of time sitting on ideas, as opposed to really going out there and just giving things a shot. You know, whether it be talking to that person at the dog park, right? Like, something that those little things, like an every day, could be an opportunity that opens a door for the rest of your life, or, you know, your next opportunity. And I think, like I said, I spent a lot of time thinking, and I wish I would have spent a lot more time doing, whether that had been, you know, getting more involved on campus. There's so many opportunities that Thunderbird and ASU can provide to you. Literally try any single thing that you can. Attend every one of these sessions, reach out to Thunderbird alum, and really just milk every opportunity that you have to come to you. You know, if I would have given things a shot, actually, more in those first few years, maybe I would have be in a different position than I am in today, which I'm still lucky, and I'm glad where I am today. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, I acknowledge that where I was at was a bit of a risky position. I didn't start interning until, you know, the summer of my junior year of college. I had one more summer to get an internship and potentially like find a job. So now reflecting on that, I'm like, ooh, I was super lucky. And you know, that was a very risky position to be in. So I wish I would have, you know, started actually interning sooner, or working for anyone in any capacity that you can. I've learned so much and been able to apply so much of what I've learned in Thunderbird by actually being in a working environment. And I think that that's something that, you know, Thunderbird professors get at a lot is, you know, we teach you these like fundamental skills, and it's your job to go out and apply those. And if you can apply those skills sooner and learn sooner how to apply them, then you'll be so much further ahead than the competition. So that's something that, looking back, just get a start on it and give it a shot, and never be afraid. There's so many people who are willing to help you help younger people, help people who are trying to start out their careers. And so just don't be afraid to try.
Love it. I'm seeing two things right now, actually. One is, oh, I only want to work for Google. I only want to work for, those top fancy brand name companies. Otherwise, I don't even want to look at other smaller, medium size. I don't even know who they are. Or I'm seeing a lot of students who are like, oh, I'm not sure. Am I qualified? Should I even apply? Maybe I don't. So I love what you're saying is, just don't be afraid and just try and then just work. You never know what might happen.
Yeah. And especially when you have so many different ways in which you can see yourself working. Like I mentioned earlier, I had so many different passions, so many different roads which I saw myself potentially to go down. And luckily, I interned at a nonprofit, and I thought maybe that was something that I had wanted to do. And then that was what opened my eyes to be like, music's actually my passion. And if I wouldn't have given that a shot, then I wouldn't have been directed to where I was, the position that I am in now. And that's how I think you can actually really start to work through, like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What do I want to spend my life doing and contributing to?
Yeah, because I think it's easier to identify things you don't want to do. And then that might be a way to quickly, filter. Anyway, thank you for sharing. This question now, I would love to direct to Xin and Brady. Xin first. I'm very curious to know about Asia, Southeast Asia, job market, employment market. Could you share a little bit with us? Xin, do you mind?
Yes, I prepared a slide for you today.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah, so let me just share the screen. All right, it's not fancy slide. It's a pretty, just, consulting type of the slide. Can you see now? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So here is the unemployment ratio. Then it's the comparison among the 4 countries in Asia. From the left side, top side, Singapore, then Malaysia, Japan, and Hong Kong. Yeah, and so as you can see, unfortunately, after the COVID-19, it's the same all over the world, but it's not really bright. But what I want to say is, but not so bad too, actually. It really depends on the industry. Then also for the short term, like Taiwan, today, like someone from Taiwan and also the lady from the Vietnam. The Taiwan and Vietnam are relatively less impact due to the less of the infection. Please correct me if if I'm wrong. Then, yeah, if we take a look by industry, it's in Singapore, the unemployment ratio by industry in Singapore. Then it's also same, I think, all over the world. The retail and the food and beverage. Of course, this sector is pretty critical. Yes, the offline retail and manufacturing have been struggled. But IT and the finance, especially in Singapore, actually, the finance and the ICT sector takes up 30% of the GDP in Singapore. So it's a huge, it's the biggest sector in Singapore. So whereas other Asian countries rely their almost 30 to 40% of the GDP on the manufacturing. Yeah, but Singapore is a bit unique. Then that sector, ICT and the financial, it's it's not really big impact actually. So that's why I said it's not really too bad. Then as a whole, the whole unemployment ratio has been increasing. Then it actually the regulation, for the work pass issue in Singapore, it's get more strict, unfortunately for us. I'm just working in Singapore with the work pass too. Of course, the Singapore government just regulation getting stringent. It's because to protect local employment, but it requires actually a higher minimum salary and a more Singaporean employment to employer for one employment pass issue. So for us, like a foreigner, the non-Singaporean, they need to show our unique value to Singapore. that's pretty important. We needed to prove like what we can do to Singapore and the Singaporeans. It's not just only for the Singapore. If you want to work in a foreign country, and if you want foreign country admit, have you in the country, and to have a work pass, just you need to show what's your ability and the capability, what you can do for that country. That's a pretty important point of view to work in the other country. Yeah. So now as a result, here is the June 2020. It's starting from the 2015. The total foreign workforce in Singapore is excluding a foreign domestic workers, it's a helpers. So excluding the FDW. Anyway, numbers this year, it's the lowest. And I think maybe the number of the foreign workers in Singapore getting reduced maybe next year too. So it's not really, good situation. But still, the Singapore, of course, relies on the foreign capital and the foreign countries, companies. So, of course, it's still 1 million, 5 million country in Singapore, but it's still 1 million here. Yeah, so you can take this number as maybe good or bad. Yeah, but that's the situation in Singapore and in Asia now.
So how about Japan?
Japan is a unique market. Like in China, Shanghai, or Ho Chi Minh and recently Bangkok, like people there, especially in multinational company, most of the local employees can speak English too. But in Japan, even like Mitsubishi, Nissan, Toyota, some of the employees in the company in Japan, they don't speak English. So the language is still like a barrier in the Japan market. Yeah, but if you want to work in other countries in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, the English is still the kind of common language. Yeah, but Japan is unique. The Japan situation of the employment ratio also increased, but for foreigners, still unique situation.
I know. Thank you. Brady, anything to add?
Yeah, just it's interesting, like since I was over here and Vietnam's approach to COVID was pretty intense, and they just locked down the border, basically no one in, no one out, everyone wearing masks, like contact tracing really intense, like any foreigner that arrived got like a military escort to quarantine and everything. So if you look at the numbers though, you can see what happened because of that. And so it's been interesting because things are largely normal within the bubble of Vietnam, but outside the bubble of how they handled COVID here in Vietnam, there's still tons of influences from international factors, obviously. And so there's two trends that are like affecting the market here in Vietnam. Number one is a shift of manufacturing and production from China to Southeast Asia. And number two is because COVID hasn't been as ravaging here in Vietnam, the domestic economy still continued to chug along. Well, obviously things like tourism and like movie theaters, things like that have just been, it's just been brutal for them. And so I bring all that up because what's happening is really interesting. Is there's a lot of companies that are looking for some type of foreign presence in Vietnam and then having a hard time getting them in there right now. So I've actually had people reach out to me that are just like, oh my gosh, you're there. You're on the inside of Vietnam when it's hard to get in right now. Like we really want someone there. And so what that tells me is two things. Number one, it's tricky right now just because of COVID and it's difficult to get into the country. I have some friends who are going to be here, but who just can't get in yet. And so their company's waiting to deploy them here. The other thing it tells me there is a need, there's a niche need for Western companies that want some type of, on the ground, bridge building communication person that can totally understand what they need in headquarters in the West and make sure that it happens here in Vietnam from a production perspective or something like that. That's happening in furniture, that's happening in the shoe industry, that's happening in the textile industry. And it's just tricky to get people right now. So speaking generally to it, and similar to what Shinjo said, was there is a need, and there will be opportunities. You just have to, you have to network. You have to find it. You have to be open to the idea of, oh, the shoe industry. I haven't really thought about that before. But you start with something. You pick something. Like for me, I picked consumer goods. I was like, okay, that's cool. I like chips and stuff. So I started with consumer goods, and then it's built to other opportunities. And so there is value in just trying things and then simultaneously being open to it. So there's opportunities here, and I've seen people reach out to me, and that's really just telling me that they're going to want more Western or international savvy experience here in Vietnam.
How about China?
China, yes. Like about every 2 weeks, I have this thought like, should we move back to China? Like, because China's incredible. Like what they're able, if you ever want to understand how amazing China is in terms of manufacturing and capability and efficiency, just live somewhere else and go back, and it's amazing how diligent Chinese are as a people, and there's a lot of opportunities that people have been reaching out to me about PPE, like personal protective equipment, because of everything going on, and there's an oversaturation. Like the factories that are here in Vietnam, they're completely booked, and so we're needing to look back in China for other opportunities to fill needs. And so yes, like I often feel a pull to be back there, because I know there are indeed opportunities and there's a need there. So yeah, good question.
Thank you. Megan, I know your internet is unstable, so feel free to, you don't have to have your video on, no problem. Curious to know about, is there one strategy that kind of help you to have this global career?
Yeah, I like that question, asking what the strategy is and not just, one thing, because it really is, a strategy, looking back and how Thunderbird prepared me for my career as well. I think it was really important for me to learn as much as I could about as much as I could, as opposed to as much as I could about one thing. Or a few things. And it really made me, I think, a lot more well-rounded and a lot more competitive against, other people who I may have been competing with for a job. And I think that that's something where Thunderbirds have a really, unique competitive edge there. And I was really, I really connected with those principles of emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and, tolerating ambiguity, those key principles that they teach you at the school. And really, I believed in that. And I tried to develop those skills. Tolerating ambiguity is something that's like, how do you learn it? And it's really through practical application and just believing in it, and seeing other Thunderbirds who tell you that, that's what led them to a certain career, or that's what helped them, complete some task at work, or survive. And that's really helped me like survive in a global career, and help me win an international role, are those three key things. And if you really work to, be open to that, be open-minded, I think, that strategy will take you anywhere. Those fundamental characteristics, they become a part of who you are. They become a part of, how you interact, how you do your work, and that will benefit you as a strategy, time and time again.
We always say Thunderbird is like a 70+ years old startup. So I feel like the Thunderbird education really prepare us to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So again, I definitely appreciate what you just shared. Shin, so curious to learn about the difference between, expats, local hires from the employer's perspective. There's so many expats in the past, now it's not as popular, but I'm just want to gain a little bit more insight from you.
the difference of expats and local employment. Yeah, so the COVID-19 actually accelerates the localization of the multinational corporation and organization. So managers, trainers, supervisors that have tended to be expats, that's fair. But some of them can be replaced by local people now. And also those like foreigners could manage the local market actually remotely. Now, like what we do, online, yeah, it's really like accelerated. It's like just, this is anyway, just a future of the 5 years later. So yeah, then, but as Singapore explicitly mentioned, Singapore government actually explicitly mentioned, expats are expected to bring the value which Singaporean cannot generate, like technology, skill, knowledge, and finance. So if you really want to live foreign country without like a special skill, you need to be prepared to live in the region or country for a long time as a kind of permanent resident. Then be competitive against the local people in terms of the even network and the business development. Yeah, so yeah, definitely like a local hires, local employment will be more than the expats. So of course, like a condition, like a compensation will be maybe worse for us, but local employment has more chance to expand the local network. Actually, here in Singapore now, I'll have 3 to 4 T-Bird alumni, like to chat with together in Singapore. All of them are local employment. None of them are expats. Yeah, in Singapore, of course, like over maybe 30 or 40 T-Bird here, I think. Every first Tuesday or first Friday, like 20 to like 30 people gathered here. I just attended only once, but yeah, I've heard it's usually like 30 people. So yeah, then yeah, pretty much of them are local employment actually. Yeah, so I think my just recommendation or the tips is that needed to be like prepared to like live in that country for a long time, not just only like I want to hop around 2 to 3 years in a lot of like a country. Rather than that, it's better to decide one country or one region to live, or like work with together for a long time. Yeah.
Especially if you have family, children, and all that kind of stuff, education, you really have to think all of that before you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, one was additional thing, because when I visited Kenya and Nigeria and Tanzania many times, like a year ago, 2 years ago. At that time, I found a lot of like Western people from the States and the European countries too. There are many entrepreneurs. Actually, rather than expats, it's we said that there are more like entrepreneurs or like new business like setuppers rather than expats in Kenya, especially from those like Western countries. And of course, like African country like welcome those like Western technologies and the knowledge, business skills. Yeah, especially in the manufacturing industry. Yeah, so I would say there are many opportunities in African countries too.
Good, I love it. Yeah, it's Thunderbird. I don't know if you know, we have a hub, an Africa hub right now. So we're seeing so many webinars, so many workshops, so many different things happening in Africa. So I'm so excited that you bring up that Africa could be a target location for students to think about job opportunities as well. Thank you. Brady and Megan next. I'm curious to know, is there one characteristic that you think T-Bird need to have in order to thrive in a foreign country?
Yeah. I would say, I'll say it this way. I would say flexibility with focus. All right. I don't know if that's that's kind of cheating a little bit, but like people do things different in different places, and that's okay, and that it's beautiful. In fact, I love it. It's in my Thunderbird DNA to be attracted to something that's different, and that's different from a lot of people. A lot of people are attracted to things that are the same, and so you want that flexibility to be able to kind of roll with the punches. In Southeast Asia or Vietnam, it's like when they say, yeah, I'll be there at 1, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be there at 1 o'clock. Like if you bring like a German mindset to that phrase, like you're going to be disappointed. And so you have these tasks that you need to get done, and you need to make sure to get them done, but you need to make sure to be flexible and not too rigid, or else you'll turn off anyone that you're needing to work with, or anyone you're needing to rely on to help get something done. And so instead of saying one, I almost always try to set meetings and appointments for the morning, knowing that they'll often get bumped. And so flexibility with focus is like key. And then I'll take it one step further and say the best way to practice that at Thunderbird is when you have group projects, pick someone you don't want to work with to work with. And I know that sounds tricky, and I don't want everyone in their class to all of a sudden be reached out to by different people and feel like, oh, well, I guess I'm that person. But the idea of like learning how to work with someone that you're not used to working with to get a paper done or to get a project done. Like the times that I did that, that's when I grew the most in that way, but I was just frustrated at the time. Like I didn't realize I was growing. And yes, it felt good to like get my buddies or my friends, the ones that I usually do a paper with, and get a great grade. But I realized that didn't push me as much. And so flexibility with focus, I'll say that.
Oh, I really need to learn from you. It's so hard. Anyway, Megan, you go next.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing, really. You know, agility is something that has helped me so much in my career, and that can, you know, be applied in so many different ways, whether it be, you know, being able to quickly pivot in my role, or being able to, you know, spot ways in which to create strategic impact. And what also goes hand in hand with that is emotional intelligence, you know, being self-aware, being empathetic. All of those things really help you to also get along with your colleagues, get around with the people who you surround yourself with, who are different maybe than people that you've ever been around before. And really like being self-aware, and also that would help too in terms of internal motivation. You know, it is hard when you first move to a different country, to, you know, get accustomed to the culture, and to, you know, adapt. But that's, as Brady mentioned, our Thunderbird DNA, you know, adapt, adjust, and move on, and to be able to be successful in that way.
Thank you. I think I'm having too much of a fun time here, forgetting that we need to do Q&A. Feel free to start adding questions to the chat box if you have questions, students. But in the meantime, I'll continue with my questions until we have other Q&A questions. So Shin, I'm curious to know if, you know, for folks who are graduating in December, meaning 2 months, looking for full-time jobs, or first-year students or undergrad students who are looking for internships, if they want to work in a foreign country now, what's #1 priority for them?
Yeah, so I checked. I just asked because we have an internship student, like 5 internship students now in my company. Then I asked them, and so what they do is basically they just find a, you know, company one by one which opens for the internship. Yeah, so as Megan did, yeah, a lot of like internship actually student has got more opportunity to be a full-time employee. So of course, like an internship is one of the, like, you know, best option. But now it's because number of the companies accepting the internship has been decreased. So you need to find out like which company really gives you the opportunity. And you need to be maybe selective. I mean, the picky to choose a company, because like a half year, 3 months to like a half year you work for the company, you shouldn't waste the time. So because, you know, a small company, for example, like a boutique company, like a small size of the company gives you more opportunity, but a big size company, there is a, you know, offshore internship program, but it's just only among the internship students, like they do work together, and they really don't like work with full-time employees. It's not like a real project. So yeah, of course, like before joining the internship, it's better to research like what kind of you know, opportunity the company gives as an internship. But yeah, anyways, yeah, internship is a pretty the good, the first option that you need to think about.
Thank you. Thank you. Circling back to Megan again, what was kind of one thing that you didn't expect when you moved to Singapore?
I think when I moved to Singapore, I had already done my internship here. So I felt like I knew what was up, and I didn't. It's a lot different spending a few months in a country than it is permanently moving to a country, starting a career there, and trying to actually be a citizen of this country more than you are a visitor for a short amount of time. But another thing that I was really moved by was just how open people are to sharing their cultures, sharing the different practices that they have, and not being judgmental when it comes to what you do or don't know. As Shin probably knows, Singapore is an extremely diverse place. There's so many people that come from so many different backgrounds here. And that shows through like the amazing food that we have and all the different, beautiful places of worship that are here and different religions that are here. And if you just ask a question, people are so willing to share more. And that was something, especially for a, Southern girl, to feel that sense of hospitality was really, I knew that I made the right decision, not only to come to Singapore, but to have an international career. People want to teach you about where they came from and who they are.
Nice. Could someone who doesn't speak a local language have global careers? Brady?
Yeah, I'll chime in on that one. And it's a tricky answer for me, right? Because I'm in Vietnam and I don't speak Vietnamese. But I'm in Vietnam because I can speak Chinese. So the answer is yes, and the answer is no. But there really are opportunities, like to even if you have just a little bit, like for example, if I were to bring someone on into our company, they would probably need to speak pretty good Chinese, but it wouldn't be vital. Like a need that I know that our company would have is like I lack when it comes to like furniture design and that creativity. I'm a really good operator. And so if I had like, if a company has a big enough like creative need or something like that, or they're just like, we really need someone, or if it was a foreign company that really needs someone that understood, the US market or the European market or something, I could see them saying like, we can speak English, we just need an expert in this area. And that's where I could see a Thunderbird being really, really valuable, because not only would a Thunderbird bring some expertise in some area or something, finance or marketing or music industry expertise or something like that, they'd also bring that cross-cultural communication capability, which would be really, really helpful. And so yes, there are opportunities, but if you do speak a local language, it's much easier.
Shen, anything to add?
Yeah, the Chinese, yeah. I don't know. Your question is funny. Like, ask to the lady, like if like a Vietnamese local language is necessary or not in a Vietnam market. It's a bit mean, I think. But as I mentioned earlier, in Thailand, for example, a lot of like local employees can speak English now. So a local language is not really like a must to have. It's not really necessary. Rather than that, if like you have an attitude and behavior, like to show I'm interested in the local, environment and the local people, and also want to contribute to the, this branch or country. If like you show the attitude and to be friendly, not elegant. Of course, like it shouldn't be elegant, but if you have a same the table that you are on the same table with the local employees and have those like a friendly attitude to them, like the language is not really necessary, I would say. Yeah. And I just found actually a lot of like Western people, English native speakers in Singapore, they because get used to talk with those like non-English native speakers. So actually, Western people in Singapore, I feel like they speak a bit like slower than other English native speakers in States and the UK, because they get used to talk with non-English native speakers.
Megan, do you agree?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Megan. I just wanted to say, like Shinijo's right. That attitude makes a world of difference. Like if I just know a little bit of Vietnamese, like it shrinks that Pacific Ocean into something more like a pond, because it's just like that attitude. If you even project an attitude of I'm speaking English, so should you, here in Vietnam as a guest, like you're not going to get things done. And so I just want to say Shinji was spot on, like with what he said, like that attitude and that interest in local language does go a really long way, even if you don't speak the local language. So just well said.
Yeah, amazing. It really does. Yeah, it goes so far. And there's places like Singapore, which, a lot of primarily English speaking. And so there's so many countries out there where if you don't speak another language, there's opportunity out there for you. So don't give up, and look for those places like Singapore, where you can find a career.
Thank you. I know we have 3 minutes left. Brady, I think we have a question for you. Follow-up question regarding approaching difficult folks to work with. What's the greatest takeaway from these experiences? And how did you conquer the difficulties you might face during the process, especially when someone you might have worked together in the past and didn't have the best experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's what it did is it highlighted my weaknesses, and that's what's valuable. Is it highlighted the fact that I had certain cultural expectations that I was bringing into a way a project should be done, and so it highlighted this. So the value was it highlighted my weaknesses, it highlighted my expectations. And that's not to say that an approach you might have about getting a project done is wrong or right. Maybe your way is better, but it was clear to you, okay, they're bringing a different expectation in than mine. And just being able to isolate and identify those differences is a huge step to be like, okay, and cognitively pause and be like, okay, they have a different expectation about how this project should start. This brainstorming, getting to know each other phase takes a lot longer than maybe my little bit more American, all right, who's gonna do what? Let's break up. Here's the assignments, everybody ready, break, just go and do it. Learning oh wow, this unity, this feeling needs to be right before they feel like they can get to that stage. And so that highlighted one of my weaknesses of sometimes I move too quickly past some of those important emotional intelligence things like Megan was talking about. And it made me realize okay, I have to pause. I have to make sure that relationship's there before I try to just get things done. And so it highlights your weaknesses. And that's what's super beneficial about working with people that you might not normally want to work with.
Thank you. Final question, Matthew Pepper. So Megan, we have a fellow music lover here. He's curious to know, how did you prepare second language working in Singapore? I think you didn't have to do that, if I remember correctly. I think how proficient you really need to be in that business environment, Singapore. Megan, go.
Yeah, I didn't learn another language, and that's, Singapore was a great place for me to look to because I didn't know. And great to see that you're a Cakewalk user. That's amazing. So the office here, everyone speaks English, and I think it is, as both of the other panelists mentioned, it's amazing to have those few sentences or even proficiency to be able to create connections and show people that you're willing to learn, and you're willing to interact in a way that shows interest. So I hope that answers your question.
Final words of wisdom, Megan, for everyone.
I would, as I mentioned, just try as much as you can, and always let your passion and your inspiration drive you, because that's going to be a lot more compelling to an employer than a specific skill, maybe, in my opinion. And that's also what's going to give you the motivation to keep working every day and fulfill your dreams.
Thank you. Shin, final words of wisdom?
Yep. Anyways, I love the Thunderbird. Then hope many keywords come to the Asian market. Then we have a friendly competition to develop each other. So please feel free to speak to me over the SNS. Then if you have any questions or further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Brady, final words of wisdom?
Just if I could speak to Brady, the Thunderbird back in the day, I tell him, you can do it. That job that you want is out there. You will get to it. Be patient and just keep meeting people and keep learning from people. So good luck, guys. So great chatting with you all.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for participating. I love Thunderbird Network. Have a wonderful evening and good morning, Asia folks. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.